In early 2024, an elderly man in northern England was admitted to hospital under alarming circumstances. Patrick O'Hara was battling a rare and deadly flesh-eating disease. The origin of his infection was shrouded in mystery, but one grim truth was undeniable. His illness was no accident. Over the coming months, investigators would uncover what has been described as the most intricate murder plot in English history. I'm Kevin, and this is Just Thought Lounge. This case is both bizarre and fresh, with details only recently coming to light. Crown prosecutors dubbed it stranger than fiction. On January 22, 2024, 71-year-old Patrick O'Hara arrived at the Royal Victoria Infirmary's Accident and Emergency Unit in Newcastle upon Tyne. He was suffering from intense pain in his upper arm, centered where he had supposedly received his COVID booster just hours earlier. Initially, hospital staff assumed Patrick's injury was caused by a botched vaccine injection. He was sent home with antibiotics and painkillers, instructed to watch the site for any worsening symptoms. Unfortunately, the pain escalated. Within hours, Patrick's arm blistered and darkened ominously. He returned to the emergency unit the next day, where doctors faced a baffling and deteriorating condition. Blood tests and analyses yielded no clear answers. Eventually, the grim diagnosis emerged: necrotizing fasciitis, a rare and lethal flesh-eating disease. The infection was centered precisely at the injection site on his arm. It soon became evident this was no ordinary vaccine. It was a toxin deliberately injected to cause harm. Surgery was urgently required. Patrick endured procedures to excise the infected tissue, a desperate attempt to halt the disease's relentless spread and save his life. Meanwhile, specialists were summoned to identify the poison. Knowledge of the toxin was crucial to guide treatment and improve Patrick's chances of survival. Dr. Emmett, an expert in toxicology, concluded the substance was likely iodomethane, a highly toxic chemical that causes severe burns upon contact with skin. This poison had never before been documented as an injectable agent, making detection nearly impossible and treatment extraordinarily difficult. On the morning Patrick fell ill, around 10 a.m., he was expecting a home visit from a community nurse arranged through the NHS. The nurse, Raj Patel, had arranged to visit the home Patrick shared with his partner of 2 decades, Jenny Young. Nurse Patel, speaking with a noticeable Asian accent and broken English, appeared competent but somewhat awkward. The appointment lasted about 40 minutes. During this time, the nurse collected blood and urine samples from Patrick. Jenny, who had been upstairs, came down midway through the visit to request a blood pressure check for herself, which Patel performed. Then, Patel prepared to administer the COVID booster vaccine. Patrick informed him that he had recently received a booster less than 3 months earlier. Despite this, Patel insisted another dose was necessary. Upon injection, Patrick immediately felt searing pain, jumping back and exclaiming in shock. The nurse dismissed the reaction as normal, assuring Patrick the stinging would fade. Shortly after, Patel hurriedly packed up and left, his departure seeming rushed and uneasy. Once hospitalized and admitted to intensive care, staff examined letters sent to Patrick and Jenny's home on St. Thomas Street. These letters, bearing the name Raj Patel from the community-associated nursing team, raised serious doubts. Hospital officials confirmed the NHS had no community nursing team and no nurse by that name on record. The letters were expertly forged. The day before the visit, Patrick received a text message reminder from an unknown number, purportedly from Nurse Patel. Suspicion first arose when the nurse showed signs of anxiety after the injection. Jenny's offhand remark as Patel exited the house struck a chilling note. As she passed by, Jenny commented to the nurse, "You're the exact same height as my son." This unnerved Patrick, who, despite intense pain, chased after the nurse. But the man had already vanished. Northumbria police began tracing the imposter's movements from the house. CCTV revealed he had arrived that morning at a Premier Inn in Newcastle city centre. Using a false identity, the man checked into a hotel room, driving a car with counterfeit license plates. 2 hours later, he left the room disguised in a long coat, flat cap, surgical gloves, and a clinical mask, moving swiftly through the hotel lobby. Covering less than 10 minutes on foot, he made his way from the hotel to Patrick and Jenny's home on St. Thomas Street. Investigators confirmed the license plates were fake, matching the car make but not the model. Despite this, they tracked the vehicle's route back to a small town called Ingleby Barwick. This trail marked the beginning of a complex investigation into a man who had assumed the identity Raj Patel, a community nurse who never truly existed. South of Newcastle, in Stockton-on-Tees, a vehicle departed from the residence of Dr. Thomas Quan, the eldest son of Jenny Young. Jenny, who had multiple sons from her first marriage, had noticed a resemblance between Thomas and a mysterious nurse. Thomas Quan, 53 years old, was born in Hong Kong but relocated to Britain at 13. He was Jenny's eldest son, the one who shared those striking features with the enigmatic nurse figure. His life had been shaped by early moves and a complex family past. Sent abroad as a student, Thomas attended an English boarding school before pursuing medicine at the University of Newcastle. He became a general practitioner and partner at the Happy House Surgery in Sunderland. He believed Jenny had withdrawn £1 million from the joint account before pressuring his father into divorce. These grievances deepened after his father's death, when Thomas discovered the will favored his younger brother. Unable to contain his resentment, Thomas wrote to Jenny, accusing her of theft and demanding redress. He asked to be made the sole executor of her will and to receive the largest share of the inheritance, citing her claims of favoritism towards him. He reminded her that she had often told him he was the child she loved most. But Jenny rejected his demands, instead revising her will to grant her partner, Patrick O'Hara, a life interest in the family home. Under this arrangement, Patrick would inherit the right to live in the house until his own death. When Thomas learned of this in November 2022, he stormed the house on St. Thomas Street without warning and forced his way inside. The family doctor pushed past Patrick O'Hara to confront his mother over her decision. Police were called to the scene, where Thomas asserted his belief that, as eldest son, he deserved a larger share of Jenny's wealth. He revealed that Jenny had declined to press criminal charges to protect his career, yet their relationship was shattered beyond repair. From that moment, a bitter estrangement took hold, lasting over 2 years. Then, a large-scale police operation descended on Thomas's family home in Ingleby, Barwick. Around 15 officers from Northumbria Police's specialist search team arrived in 2 vans, clad in protective gear to conduct a meticulous search. Neighbors watched in stunned silence as firefighters and law enforcement took over the quiet street. Authorities instructed residents to remain indoors, heightening the unease as speculation grew about what had been uncovered. The uncertainty bred fear. The scale of the response was enormous, with tents erected and personnel moving in and out of the house. The community grappled with the terrifying reality that something sinister was unfolding in their midst. He had registered a company at his surgery's business address, ostensibly for scientific research, but told staff it was for managing investment properties. Through this front, he ordered an expanding arsenal of toxins. Alongside the poisons, police found a cache of instructional materials detailing how each chemical could be weaponized, their clinical effects, and expected timelines. A book specified lethal doses of various toxins, including sodium cyanide recipes. The doctor's computer contained toxicology texts and a copy of the National Center for Policing Excellence's Guide on Murder Investigations. With his medical expertise, Thomas Quan had devised a calculated plan to inflict maximum suffering. His audacious scheme involved poisoning his own mother in plain sight. Criminal investigator Jen Jarvie reflected on how Thomas exploited trust, dressing as a nurse, sending letters and texts to manipulate his way inside their home. In the shadows of his medical career, Thomas Quan had immersed himself in the study of poisons for months, perhaps even years. He had established a company, ostensibly for scientific research, registered at his business address at the Happy House Surgery. Through this front, Quan amassed an expanding arsenal of deadly substances. To his practice manager, he claimed the company was involved in investment properties, masking the sinister truth. Alongside this growing collection, investigators uncovered a detailed library of toxic materials. These documents meticulously described how each poison could be wielded to inflict harm. They detailed clinical effects and the precise time each chemical took to act. Police found a chilling ledger outlining the exact doses needed to kill a human target. Among the evidence was a list of chemicals and naturally occurring poisons, accompanied by their properties. A recipe for manufacturing sodium cyanide stood out, alongside numerous toxicology books stored on Quan's computer hard drive. Authorities also seized a copy of the National Center for Policing Excellence's Manual on Murder Investigations. With his medical expertise and calculated research, Thomas Quan had crafted a blueprint for the perfect murder, one designed to maximize the suffering of his victim. His plan was audacious, involving the administration of poison in full view of his own mother. Questions arose. How did his mother and partner remain unaware of his deadly intentions? Convincing his victims that he was administering a COVID booster, he gained their confidence. This false reassurance was the cruel mask behind his horrific actions and their devastating consequences. Further investigation revealed that Thomas Quan had been spying on his mother and Patrick O'Hara for an extended period. His surveillance focused primarily on their financial activities. In December 2020, nearly 2 years before their relationship fractured, Quan gave his mother a laptop. She received the gift with gratitude, unaware of the hidden dangers. Police later discovered that the laptop's built-in camera was covertly pointed inside their home on St. Thomas Street. Through this device, laden with spyware, Quan watched their daily lives unfold. He monitored communications in real time and captured screenshots of emails documenting every financial transaction. This digital surveillance painted a chilling picture of his calculated control. Even as his relationship with his wife fractured, Thomas accused his mother and Patrick O'Hara, her partner, of unjustly taking their hard-earned money and home. Investigators also unearthed disturbing plans Thomas had drafted, plotting alternative methods to kill Patrick before settling on the guise of community nursing. Among the documents found was one purporting to be from an organization called the Northern England Men's Sporting Association, addressed to Patrick and offering free drinks and pre-made meals delivered to his door. Another paper claimed to be from the Northern Wine and Drinks Tasting Gentlemen's Club. Investigators concluded Thomas was weighing whether poison delivered via food or drink would be the most effective way to carry out his deadly plan. In a final layer of deception, Thomas Quan manufactured a false identity. Raj Patel. In his garage, he created a fake ID card, complete with a photo of himself disguised with a wig and false beard. This counterfeit ID was found among the poisons he carried that day, intended to fool anyone demanding identification. Thomas's scheme was painstaking and elaborate. He managed to deceive his own mother during a visit lasting over 40 minutes. The betrayal was unimaginable. A witness recounted the shock when the news broke on social media. Recognition dawned instantly. This was the doctor they trusted, now exposed as a perpetrator. The realization that Thomas Quan could betray family so deeply shook those who knew him. His actions shattered every ethical boundary, violating the sacred trust held by medical professionals. The chilling images showed only his eyes clearly, the rest of his face obscured by disguise. Knowing this was the man who had been their doctor filled witnesses with dread. The terror was palpable. For many, true crime stories were distant nightmares, until this horror struck so close to home, turning fiction into grim reality. Patrick O'Hara endured several agonizing weeks in the intensive care unit at Royal Victoria Hospital. Meanwhile, Thomas Quan faced arrest, charged with attempted murder. Police arrived unannounced, seeking entry to question Thomas Quan. At 6:30 a.m., he was formally arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. The gravity of the moment hung heavy in the air. Despite repeated requests, Thomas refused to disclose the substance he had injected into Patrick's arm, withholding critical information that might have saved the older man's life. As Patrick's condition worsened, Thomas remained silent. Yet, medical experts did not surrender to uncertainty. They pieced together clues to identify the poison. Thomas Quan's phone revealed a damning pattern. 97 internet searches for iodomethane within 2 weeks before the attack. He had also watched a video demonstrating how to produce the chemical at home. Authorities found a glass tube containing the poison, alongside a hypodermic syringe and needle, all in his possession. Combined with Patrick's symptoms, experts deduced iodomethane was almost certainly the agent used. Patrick underwent multiple surgeries to remove necrotic tissue. Plastic surgery was necessary to reconstruct his damaged arm. Against all odds, he survived the brutal assault. Under intense interrogation, Thomas Quan admitted to injecting a harmful substance into Patrick's arm. Yet, he claimed his intent was not murder, but merely to inflict mild pain or discomfort. In October 2024, the case proceeded to trial at Newcastle Crown Court. Patrick O'Hara attended the opening day, listening as Crown Prosecutor Peter Makepeace addressed the jury. Makepeace argued that the meticulous planning by Thomas Quan could only be explained by murderous intent, not a desire to cause mere discomfort. He highlighted Thomas's expert knowledge of poisons and extensive research, underscoring that this was a calculated, life-threatening assault, not an impulsive act. Moreover, the motive was not purely financial. The inheritance Thomas stood to gain from his mother's estate was modest, a fact emphasized by Justice Lambert, who described the sum as not so great. Killing Patrick might have removed an obstacle to receiving the inheritance faster, but it would not increase the payout. The root of Thomas's resentment appeared to be a deep-seated grievance over his mother's perceived lack of affection during his childhood. Statements made to police revealed Thomas's motive as a form of revenge, using Patrick as a proxy to inflict pain on his mother. On the second day of the trial, October 7, 2024, Thomas Quan pleaded guilty, sparing the court weeks of testimony. His admission marked a pivotal moment in the case. Patrick O'Hara told Justice Lambert how the ordeal had irrevocably changed him. He described extreme fatigue, constant awareness of his disfigured arm, and a lingering fear of health professionals and official letters. He lamented the loss of his former peace of mind, now replaced by perpetual anxiety and a poor quality of life. The courtroom bore witness to his harrowing testimony. During sentencing, Justice Lambert noted the extensive, calculated nature of Thomas's planning. Though some efforts were crude, the creation of false license plates showed a disturbing level of sophistication. Despite overlooking CCTV coverage around St. Thomas Street, Thomas had gone to great lengths to obtain false plates. This indicated a chilling determination to carry out his lethal scheme. The license plates found at the scene matched the vehicle's make, though not the exact model. The plan was inherently risky, yet any flaws were not for lack of careful preparation on the perpetrator's part. In a decisive judgment, the court recognized the depth of planning and premeditation involved, leading to a significant increase in sentencing beyond the guidelines' starting point. Thomas Quan received a prison term of 31 years and 5 months. Consideration was given to his eventual guilty plea and the fact that, at 53 years old, he had no prior criminal record. The victim, Patrick O'Hara, survived physically, but the trauma left him struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. After leaving the hospital, the emotional toll fractured his long-standing relationship with Jenny Young. Despite everything, Patrick expressed deep gratitude for the extraordinary medical care that saved his life. He singled out the dedicated NHS professionals at the Royal Victoria Hospital for their life-saving efforts. In a statement, he acknowledged the judge's sentencing as true justice served. He praised the police and prosecution for their relentless work in bringing Thomas Quan to justice. Equally, he thanked the Royal Victoria Infirmary's consultants, Ward 47 staff, and the outpatient team in the plastics department for their unwavering support. Without their care and dedication, Patrick doubted he would have survived this ordeal. Thus closed the chilling case of Thomas Quan. I thank you for following this story. Special thanks to Kimberly for joining the Members Lounge. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge. Until next time.